I'm DJ Lascaris. I am the Transition Program Specialist for Frisco ISD. So I work with all students from PPCD on up to our 18 plus services. Mainly my role is in the secondary because that's where we look at the federal and state laws for transition in IEP and ARDS. However, I like to go down to the little people and talk to them because just like the video talked about, that early planning is super important. So I know that all of you have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you. On your left-hand side of your paper, I want you to write the age of your child as they are right now. So as of today, your child is 6, 12, 18, whatever it may be. On the other side of your paper, on the right-hand side, right across, I want you to write the number 25. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute. Because when we're talking about transition, we're talking about future planning. And when I see your kids, I always look at your PPCD kiddo, your preschool kiddo, your kindergartner, your senior, as the 25-year-old that we're planning for. And I just like the number 25. Because by then they're gone. And all of these supports are gone. So when I'm looking and I'm talking to parents, I always picture your child at 25. And we're going to talk about how we can help you picture your child at 25 as well. So just so you know, I have 2 children of my own. I have an almost 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. So my kids are still very young, but I also picture them at 25. So as a parent, I understand how hard it is to envision where they're going to be because we like to keep them and pretend that they're not really growing up. But unfortunately, I made them sign a contract and they keep growing up anyways. They keep doing that. Like, she's going to turn 12 next month, and I've already told her she can't. But regardless, she's going to do that. And before I turn around, she is going to be 25. So I have a great reputation of the person that comes to ARDS and says to parents, what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you need from us so that you can do it. Because ultimately, all these people over here in the school district, they go away, and you're there. So we want to connect you to people who will be there with you, because we can't be always. So I'm just going to kind of give you a broad, because I have 20 minutes, and I will try to keep it to 20 minutes. I just want to give you a broad kind of idea of what Frisco ISD has in place to help students transition, especially at the secondary level. So elementary parents, don't tune this out, because guess what? They're going to get there. They're going to be there. So I'm going to talk about kind of our programs, and then I'm going to talk about things that you can do as our team members to start planning these pieces. And then if I forget to come back to the ages, somebody tell me so that I can actually make the point I need to. Sorry, did you hand me a clicky thing? I'm so worried I'm going to topple that camera over. It's okay, it's fine. I'm just right here. All right, so if you can see this picture, when we look at transition, your students leave us at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They leave us. And what we want to do is to make sure that when they leave us, they don't fall off of a cliff. They don't have massive amounts of services through public education, and then there's nothing. Because that's cruel. It's cruel on our part, it's cruel on the parents' part. We have to make sure that there's a bridge to whatever plans and desires that that student has, and as parents, what you have. So federal law says that we have to provide transition services for students before that they turn 16. In Texas, they do that at 14. So if you have a middle school student, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you have probably at some point had a survey sent home, or you've talked to somebody that has said, what does it look like when your student leaves high school? What are your desires? What are your goals? What are your plans? And from that point on, whatever ARD that is, the rest of the plans for your child should be directly focused on what those desires and plans are. So everything that happens at an ARD, every piece of curriculum, every course, every decision should be based on what the desires and plans for that student is when they're 25. So why do we talk about transition so early? Like the video said, those wait lists are long, guys. They're long. 11 to 17 years long. We have to get them at diagnosis. And that's hard because when we hear diagnosis, we have to process that. We have to go through the grieving process. We have to celebrate because maybe we found out exactly what we needed, but there's a process to that. So it's hard, but the reason that your staff is pushing getting on these wait lists is because you're going to need them. You're going to. You're going to need the support when you no longer have us. And if you don't, awesome. So I always say, if you sign up for HCS and class and whatever smorgasbord you sign up for, and they call you when your child's 19, and you need them, and they're there for you, because you came off the waiting list and now you're getting services, that's a party, have cake. You got what you needed. If they call you at 19 to say, hey, do you need services? And you say, no, he's rocking life, we got this. It's a party, have cake. Either way, there's cake, right? So it's not that you're signing up on these things and you're making a promise to anybody that you're going to use them. What it is you're signing up so that they can serve you if it's needed. And they can serve your family and they can serve your kiddo. I don't know if I ever talk about the stuff that's actually on here. I kind of just go. So we'll share this on the website. So if I don't talk about exactly, you'll have that information. Oops, sorry. I went the wrong way. So when we're talking about transition at the secondary level, really, again, we're looking at post-secondary goals. Post-secondary goals are the desires and plans that you have for your child and the desires and plans that your child has for themselves. So we talk about independent living or interdependent living, supported living, group homes, living in with the family, living with a roommate, living with sister. We talk about employment and career, so supported competitive employment, on-the-job training, all of those pieces. Going to college, maybe going to a vocational school, working in a sheltered workshop, working with supported community agencies like TWC and LifePath systems. And as they get older, middle school may be a little bit more, a little bit general, that he's going to live with the family and maybe on-the-job training. As they get through high school, maybe they've found their passion and they know exactly what job they want. And we write it more specifically. Because every member of that ARD should be focused on those three things every decision that's made, including you as parents. So here's what I want you to do. The next ARD, I want you to ask two things. I want you to say, before we start this ARD, I want to start it with the post-secondary goals. Diagnosticians, you good with that? I see you back there. If a parent says, I don't want to talk about goals and objectives, hold on. I want to talk about post-secondary goals and the goals and plans and desires that I have for my kid. You're good with that, right? You can hang? Yeah, they're all sitting together, so that was helpful. Talk about it first so that every decision in the ARD goes back to that. And then I want you to ask, not how is my student doing? How is my child doing? Don't ask the ARD committee that. Ask what are the skills and deficits that you see currently that are focused on post-secondary goals. Because I can say, how are you? You doing okay? You're good? Doing good in class? Yeah. But if I say, what are your skills and what are your deficits and how can we address them to get you to post-secondary goals? Your ARD is going to focus so much better on what you need to bridge the gap. Cool? Yeah? Okay. All right, so the programs that we have in Frisco ISD, the very first one is our CTE program. So we have CTE programs at the high school levels and at the Cade Center. So they get on the bus and go to the Cade Center. There's over 30 programs in all kinds of pathways. And so that is what we look at first. Can we serve your student in classes with peers that are directly impacting how they want to gain employment or live independently and those kinds of things? So again, it's going to be individualized. I could list all the classes, but we would be here all night. There's so many classes. So we look at those first and say, can we serve your student in their skills and their deficits in a CTE course that's designed for vocational experience? We also have 2 programs that are OC Prep 1 and OC Prep 2. They are for students on alternate curriculum. So they're working on prerequisite skills to career exploration, job shadowing, building resumes, learning those soft skills that you need on every job. Part of that curriculum is done in the classroom, part of it's done in community-based instruction. We also have vocational adjustment courses. So those are our co-op programs where students gain high school credits by being out on the work site. And a great thing happened last year. Typically, we could only give high school credit if it was paid employment. So there had to be a specific way that you had to get your high school credit by being out in the community and working, but it had to be competitive employment. So that was sometimes hard for our kids to be able to, because really the VAC program was teaching them some skills as well. So it was hard to gain employment without having some experience. So, yay Texas, we can now have our students be in volunteer positions in nonprofit agencies in the community and earn high school credits. That's great. That gives them such a good experience where they're not under the pressure of employment and losing a job, but they're learning and gaining skills outside of a classroom. All right, so those 3 that I just talked about are high school programs. So K, OC Prep, Principles of Marketing Dynamics, and our VAC program. Now we're going to talk about our 18 plus services. So our 18 plus services are for students who have completed the graduation requirements. So they have completed 25 to 26 high school credits. They've done all the math courses they're supposed to have and all the science courses they're supposed to have. And they could graduate based on credit accrual. However, the R team is saying to us, credits are great, we got the academics finished, but if he graduates tomorrow, he's going to fall off that bridge because he's missing deficits, right? So we need to ARD that they need extended services in the district to fill the gap. 18 plus services is a qualification system. So it's not that your student is in special education and you just need somewhere for him or her to go. So we're going to keep them in the 18 plus services. It is a deficit skill building program where we, as an ARD team, including parents and student, we look at deficits and we make decisions based on deficits. So here's my post-secondary goal of competitive employment. I have skill deficits in soft skills, pace, attention span, and if I graduate tomorrow, this is not attainable. So the 18 plus services is a step in, and we build only non-academic functional goals so that they can obtain those post-secondary goals. 18 plus services is also for those students who need self-care skills, independent living skills. We're looking at deficits, so everything is individualized. I said that, sorry. So we have essentially 2 separate 18 plus programs, but there's different levels to them. We have what we call a Step Beyond, and then we have Project Search. A Step Beyond is composed of 4 levels of programming. So if you have a senior this year, there's going to be a review process on your students' skills and deficits to see if they qualify for an 18 plus program. We have step, it's easy, 10, 20, 30, and 40. 10 is 10 hours a week, 20 is 20 hours a week, and you get my point. Our step 10 kids are kids that very well could likely graduate with their senior year class, but they just have a little bit of a tweak that they need. So the bridge is almost complete, and then just those last 2 rungs aren't there and it's too big of a jump. So we keep them for a little bit. Most of our step 10 kids don't stay with these even for a full year. We just get them so that those rungs can be completed and they can walk over that bridge safely. We've had this year 3 step 10 kids, and within 3 or 4 months, they had been able to link to DARS or sorry, I'm never going to stop saying DARS. TWC, S, something. They've got agency, they got into a community college that was able to provide accommodations. They worked on some social skills, you know, those kinds of pieces. Our step 20 kids are those students who have the independent living skills and self-care skills to meet that part of their post-secondary goal. but they need vocational skills. And when I say the self-care and independent living skills to meet that post-secondary goal, I mean that individually. So it could be that a student has met the skills in those areas to live with their family in a supported environment. It doesn't mean that they have the skills to live by themselves, because that's not the family's goal. It could be. So we do have some Step 20 kids currently that are going to move into an apartment soon because that was their post-secondary goal. They started in the Step 30, they got those skills and moved on up. So Step 20 are those kids that have the other pieces where there are no deficits and they're working on vocational skills. They're there 20 hours a week. Some of them are there 3 days a week. Some of them are there 5 days a week. It's very individualized on what they need. And then our Step 30 kids are students that are working on vocational skills, self-care skills, and independent living skills. Step 20 and Step 30 are very fluid. So a student could start off in one of those programs. So let's say a student starts off in Step 30 and they rock out their independent living skills. We've mastered it, they're able to maintain it, they can generalize the skills into their home. We move them into a Step 20 and all they're working on is on vocational skills because that's where their deficit lies. Does that make sense? It also could be that a student starts off in Step 20 because their independent living skills when we started were, I'm going to live with mom, we're going to live like roommates, I know how to do all those things I need. They get into a Step 20 program, they start working and building self-confidence and getting social skills, and they see their peers living by themselves, and they think, I could do that. So their post-secondary goals change. And we have an art and we say, he no longer wants to live with you, mom. He wants to live by himself, and he has a right to do that. So now we're going to move him into Step 30, so he can work on independent living skills based on that new post-secondary goal. Does it make sense? Okay.
I have a quick question. Is this going to be on the Frisco High School website?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. They're going to do that part. And I also have a rubric that's color-coded that we're going to clean up because I got some feedback from parents that it was like the language and things were a little bit more complicated, so I want to make it a little bit more friendly and not sped termy, and we'll post that as well. All right, so Project Search is another program that we have. It is similar to Step Beyond, and it does those pieces, but it is working on vocational skills in longer hours and intensive intervention for 1 year. So students that go into Project Search is an application process. They do working interviews. Parents work through an interview process to make sure that they're on board with this, because Project Search, after 1 year, we expect 100% employment for all of our graduates. So they come into the program. It's a 9-month unpaid internship, and I'll talk all day on Project Search, so I'm going to make this really short. There'll be more information on the website. And they work alongside LifePath Systems and TWC. So all these agencies that typically we have to wait on sometimes with those, they're all together in one site working on skills for these kiddos, and they graduate within that year because they are linked to agencies, these people who will talk next, and they have employability skills. So sometimes kids go to Step Beyond for a year and then they do Project Search. We have seniors that go from their senior year right into Project Search. So it's kind of a mix. Again, with Project Search, same as Step Beyond, all of the high school credit graduation accruals have to happen before they're in that placement.
Can you go back to the Step Beyond 40?
Oh, I am sorry. Thank you for catching that. Going back, thank you. Step 40 is for our students who are non-vocationally bound. So they're students that post-secondary goals, so parents and students are not planning on employment outside of a sheltered workshop or kind of an ultimate supportive environment. So there are students that are working on maybe pre-vocational skills, self-care, medical management, and they are in a Step 40 program. So they have a full school day. Right now it is on their high school campus. So if they are in a centralized program their senior year and they qualify for a Step 40 program, they would stay in the centralized program that they are currently in. Now, as we grow in Frisco, I can't promise that's how it's always going to be, because we have like 2 million people move in every year. That's a huge exaggeration, but we have a lot. So for right now, that's what's happening with our Step 40s, because most of our Step 40 kids have a need for more staff support, medical interventions, behavior and communication interventions. So they're campus-based in their Step 40 programs. Thank you for catching that. All right, so that's kind of an overview of our programs. And then I just want to talk to you about how to prepare. All right, so on your papers, I won't look at them, I promise. Where you wrote the number of the age of your student now, underneath it I want you to write your age, currently today. I won't look, I promise. All right, now, it's okay if you get out your phones and use your calculator. On your right-hand side of your paper, I want you to figure out what your age is going to be when your child is 25. It's really sad that our kids get older, but then we look at that and we're like, shoot, we are too. We as parents get older as our kids get older. And we as parents have to plan for that as well. The reality is we're not always going to be with our students. And for a lot of you, I hope that that is the plan, that your students will be able to branch out from you. Now, I know with all of our families that is not something that can happen. I understand that. But for a lot of our students, we want to have them with us, and we forget to let them branch out a little bit. So I just want you to look at that number and keep it in your mind, because when your children are older, so are you. And there are barriers for older parents to have students and children in their home, adult children in their home, that need this support. So here's what we're going to do to prepare not just your students, but you as well. Because sometimes it's harder to prepare us as parents for these transitions than the kids. Sometimes the kids rock right on through transition, and then we're kind of left behind like, well, now what do I do? Because I can't speak in your shoes. Both of my children are typically developed kiddos. My oldest has medical concerns and has epilepsy, and so I have a hard time backing up from that. You know, when she's at the gym for her cheer, I'm like sitting in the parking lot. She doesn't know that, don't tell her. But I can't speak as a parent of a student with special needs, and I can't speak as a parent of a special needs child who's getting older. I can't do that for you. So I'm not going to stand up and pretend that I can. But I do know, being in education for 20 years, how hard it is for parents when their students get older and they do branch out, because it's all we have done for years. And so I want to kind of give you guys some things to prepare, not just your kids, but yourself. Because it's a celebration when they leave us. It's a celebration when they branch out, but it's also really scary. Would you agree that it's a little scary? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to upload onto the website the more extensive version of this that gives you a checklist. And if you guys have feedback for me on this, on something maybe that I didn't think of, or something that's really important at a different age, I would love to hear from you so that we can make a really comprehensive list that parents can do. So I don't know how many of you have young kids in here, so I don't know if I'm catching you at diagnosis. But you might know somebody who just heard a diagnosis, or they just started PPCD or something like that, and maybe you can help us. Because this is the age at which those wait lists need to happen. This is the age that we have to support parents the most, because it is a shock. Your plans for life change, and we can, if your child isn't currently in there, but you know somebody is, then these are some pieces that we can kind of help. So this is going to be bad. Okay, you've got me if I fall, and you're going to monitor, like adjust all these things. Okay. Again, you're going to ask at the ARD, what are my child's skills and what are my child's deficits? And don't accept they're doing great. Don't accept the answer, she's doing great, she's a pleasure to have in class. Don't accept it. Ask again, what are her skills and what are her deficits? Because I'm going to probably ask, when you get up to an art and you see me walk in, that's what I'm going to ask you too. I'm going to say, at home, what is she really, really good at? And then I'm going to ask you this terrible question that I asked last night. What do you still do for her? Because I'm not going to ask you what does she do independently. I'm going to say, what do you do for her still? She's 16. What do you still do for her? And then you're going to tell me, and I'm going to say, I got homework for you. Okay? All right, so from age of diagnosis, prepare for special needs, financial planning, ask for information, talk with your school district about getting on those wait lists. If you don't know how to do it, we'll walk you through it. I'll come have lunch with you. If you promise to call, I'll bring you lunch. We've got to get them on wait lists early. If you haven't gotten them on wait lists and you're kind of panicking inside right now, do it tomorrow. I'll come help you. There's lots of people in the district that'll sit down with you. It takes about 5 minutes. It's easy. It's the easiest part of this. They don't ask for a lot of information. They just need the name and contact information. So if you haven't done it, do it tomorrow. At the elementary age levels, here's the big part. Give your child chores. It's going to look different for everybody. I want you to know I have taught life skills, active learning, access students, 18 plus. They're my people. I get it. Sometimes it's hard, but their chores can look different. Your child's chores might be very different from your child's chores, and that's okay. But give them a little responsibility. Here's the biggest thing, and this is the hardest part as a parent. Let them mess up. Let them turn the laundry pink. Who hasn't in this room dumped over a mop bucket, burnt the toast, turned the laundry pink? My husband still does. I'll get him trained eventually. Who hasn't messed up something? But we are so scared to let our kids mess up. Don't let them start a fire in the kitchen. I'm not saying that, but let them spill the juice. It's okay. What an opportunity for them to learn to clean it up. So even though you might have students that are medically fragile, nonverbal, not able to mobilize around the house, find one little thing that you have to do for them every day and stop doing it for them. Let them do it. Because as you get older, you're not going to be able to. And as you get older, somebody else is going to have to. So if it takes a little bit away from a caregiver, support person, and gives them a little bit of responsibility, how big is that you're doing that for them? And they may hate it. Give them my name. Tell them I told you. But in the end, at 25, think of how that can change their lives. And as parents, how it changes your lives as well. Make them do chores. If you need reinforcers, we can help. You need a picture schedule. I know people who have board maker. We'll laminate it for you even. But make them do it.
There's a laminator in the parent sanctuary learning library.
There is? Didn't know that.
Laminate on the spot.
Find opportunities in your community to socialize. I know they caught that some on the video as well. I'm way over time, aren't I? I'm sorry. I'll wrap this up. I know it kind of talked about that on the video, but go out. Maybe just go out for 5 minutes. But then the next time, go out for 7. But we've got to get these things in an early age so that they can be the adults that they need to be. They have a right to be out. They have a right to enjoy these pieces. But we have to teach them. I can take my 8-year-old out to the grocery store, and I don't worry. She's good. But my 12-year-old, almost at 8 years old, there was lots of pieces I had to put in place in order for us to go places. Because the sensory of these places were rough. And we had to work, and it was a whole lot harder. Man, she makes my 8-year-old look like a piece of cake. But now at 12, the work's done. So I don't have to worry about her at 25 now. Because the work, it's hard. It's a lot of work in the beginning. I'm not going to lie to you and say, just take them out, it'll be easy. But work really hard now so that they have that at 25. I'm going really fast. Here I go. At the secondary age levels, prepare for us leaving you. From the time they hit 8th, 9th grade, start preparing for us to leave you. because we will. Even though we like your kids, we just can't legally stay with you forever. So start preparing. Start thinking about things that you can back away from. I tell the teachers all the time, work yourself out of a job. When I walk into your classroom and you're hanging out in the corner, I promise you I'm not going to judge you, I'm going to celebrate. Because you've worked yourself out of supporting that student and they're doing things independently. And as parents, we have to do that too, even though it's hard. Guardianship. When they turn 18, the morning that they wake up on their 18th birthday, you no longer have control of anything they do if you have not planned. They can walk into school and quit. They can tell their art team to take them out of special education. They can go buy a car. They can sign up for a cell phone. They can sign up for a credit card. And guess who's responsible? They are. If their child is not able to make decisions on their own safely, you need to look at guardianship. Look at it about 3 or 4 months before they turn 18. Guardianship. I'll tell you, I've got kiddos that are nonverbal, medically fragile, that don't have guardianship. And when they graduate or age out from us and something happens medically, and you've got a doctor that just doesn't want to deal with you, they'll kick the parent out of the room and they'll take care of her however they want to. It's scary. Public education, you have all kinds of rights until they turn 18. We don't invite you to ARDS unless they say we can. So if nothing else, if you hear nothing from me today, write down guardianship.
My name is Daniel Clark, and this is Margarita Childress. She is our transition counselor, and I'm going to let her kind of explain what she does real quickly, and then I'll give a more in-depth overview of what it is that our agency does.
So I see a few faces out there that I recognize. Basically, I work with the students, special education students that are linked with us, that you guys have authorized for me to talk to. I work at Centennial, Wakeland, Lone Star. I have Lebanon Trails, and Reedy. So basically, the only thing I really want to emphasize with you guys is sign those consents for me to meet with your students so that I am able to offer the services that my area manager is going to talk about. Basically, I meet with them, I kind of get a feel for them, and I'm able to talk to the teachers about them and find out what their strengths are, what their deficits are, and work with the school to help transition them into adulthood. So that's a little overview of what I do.
The main thing what we do as an agency is help anybody with a disability enter the world of work. That is the only reason that we are in existence, is to help individuals who have a desire to work, whether that's 10 hours a week or 40 hours a week. Based on what their disability is, we help them enter the world of work. Like we said, we were previously known as, I don't want to hold this anymore, sorry. Previously, we were Department of Assistive and Rehab Services. And as a result of some legislative action in 2014, legislator decided that we needed to merge with the other state agency that provides workforce services. There's 5 tenets of WIOA, which is Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. We administer one of those programs. Texas Workforce administers the other 4. And so they were like, well, why do we have these 2 different programs to administer workforce? So let's merge them. Well, September 1, we became Texas Workforce Commission. My division is Texas Workforce Solutions Vocational Rehab Services. And so that's who we are now. But my background is I was a special ed teacher at Horn High School in Mesquite for the first 3 years. I was a severe and profound life skills teacher, then moved into VAC and CBI. I'm a recovering teacher. I've been with the agency 14 years, started as a vocational rehab counselor for about 5 years, 6 years. Then they created the transition counselor position, which was right in my wheelhouse. Did that for 6 years as a transition counselor covering Rockwall, Rockwall Heath, Greenville High Schools, and kind of Hunt County, Rockwall area schools. And then for the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years, I've been in the management of the Sherman and McKinney offices for vocational rehab. And so I'm speaking to you guys from the heart. This is my passion. My passion is to help young adults transition to the world of work. And the world of work, like I said earlier, means different things to different students. Some are capable of more gainful activity, whether that be 40. Some may just want to work 10, but that's what we're here to do. We have to assume that with our services, we are going to be able to help someone go to work. If we've tried and tried and tried and we can't, hey, at least we say we didn't try. We're not going to say from the very beginning without trying that, hey, we just absolutely are not going to be able to do anything for you. After we've done some evaluations, stuff like that, we may come to that realization, but we're going to at least try. So what it is that we do is I have 3 transition counselors in our McKinney office. We cover every Frisco high school. The other, Margie's co-partner her name is Alice Firth. Some of you may know her as well. She covers the other remaining Frisco ISD high schools. And so we come out to you. Transition for us goes right along with transition for the state. Based on the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, linking high school students and holding schools accountable to post-secondary outcomes is a big deal now. Those group clusters, work ready, all those different things are very important. So there's a meeting in downtown Dallas tomorrow for the combined VR and vocational rehab general and vocational rehab blind combining. We are 2 separate entities currently, but we're fixing to combine into one agency under TWC. Which how that affects you guys is that blind started at age 10. They started serving young students with disability who were blind at age 10. Well, they've made some changes. That's now going to start at 14 to be consistent across the board. And so those students who are still receiving blind services under the age of 14, they will continue. But as of, I think it's sometime in March, there will be no more students under the age of 10 that receive services for blind. They will still be available through the school. They'll work with the Region 10 vision instructors, all that stuff. But at 14 is when we can really start working with your son or daughter to prepare them for what they're going to do when they leave high school. And so Margie and them are here to really, as soon as they start that first start at 14, I can't stress enough for you guys to, when you're in that ARD meeting and they ask you guys to sign these releases or they send those releases home at the beginning of the year, signing those, because without your permission, we can't access your son or daughter. And the earlier that we can start, the better planning. And so whenever those releases come home at the beginning of the year or during the ARD meeting, please, please, please sign those so we can have access to your son or daughter. Because if you request that we meet with your son or daughter with you, we're absolutely going to do that. We're absolutely going to do that. But at least it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, hey, these are some students that I could touch here and send letters home to parents and say, hey, we'd love to meet you at the school because these guys are totally portable. They're in the office very seldom. They totally portable, work from wherever they're at in the schools. That's the good thing about Frisco ISD. They allow us the space to come in and meet with your son or daughter on campus without you guys having to come pick them up and then come to our office, all the time. And so what we do is we're an eligibility driven agency, meaning that your son or daughter may have a disability. And this is a very broad thing here in that your son or daughter may have a disability, but if that disability does not affect their ability to work, they would not be eligible for our services. So we're a little different than the entitlement programs the way that things are structured there, in that the son or daughter may have a disability and they're entitled to these services. Ours, it's eligibility driven in that the disability has to impact their ability to work. Most high school students that receive special ed services, that's what we get paid to do, is find out how it does affect their ability to work. Through looking at special ed testing, talking to their teachers, talking to the school psychologists, counselors, gen ed teachers, you guys, the parents, you. And if we don't have enough information to make that eligibility determination, we may do additional testing. And that testing will be available to you. We also sign releases. We can give it to the school as well. So they can use it if they need to for their purposes. We have no problem with that. And at times, if there's recent testing from the school, we will use that. We will let the psychologist look at the testing to interpret it for a DSM diagnosis for us to be able to use too, so we don't have to subject the student to additional testing. And it's psychological testing. It is what it is. I mean, it's a psychological test. But that we look at it for eligibility purposes and to kind of initially plan. We don't every time in 3 years we're still working with your son or daughter, we don't come back and go, well, this psych says this evaluation says that. That's not the intent. A psychological evaluation is a snapshot of who your son or daughter is on those days that they were evaluated, nothing more. So yes, we have to use that for our eligibility purposes, but it's not something we're going to drag along with them for the rest of their life and say, oh, based on this day here, you can't do this. That's not what we're here to do. And so we also do vocational evaluations to kind of see really what are some of the skills that they have vocationally. Also looking at what they've done in their Step Beyond program or whatever programs they were in high school. Margie has observed students that she's currently working with on the job site, on their volunteer job site, to kind of see, we have these paper documents, but they don't give us a really good snapshot of who they are. So we look at them and kind of get the basis, but then she's gone out and observed them on the job site or on their volunteer assignment to really see how they interact. Those things matter because one thing a piece of paper can tell us something, but until we can actually see that individual on the job and interacting, we won't know. And so that's a large part of also what we do. And so these processes take place throughout the year. Those meetings that we have with your son or daughter, we will invite you to those meetings. We want you to be a part of it. But we are going to say, hey, not that we don't like you parents, but if I'm going to talk directly to your son or daughter. It's not that I don't like you, but I want to know what your son or daughter has to say, or get their thoughts on the process and what's going on in their life, and what they see for themselves. Because it's all person-centered, it is very individualized. Once a student's determined eligible, we then kind of start this assessing and planning process that Margie and the other counselors do to really determine what services your son or daughter needs from us to be successful. And then once we go through that process, we develop what's called an individualized plan for employment. Kind of like your IEPs that you have here at school, we develop a individualized plan for employment that says, these are the support, ultimately what the employment goal is. It doesn't have to be explicitly defined. It can be loose, and then we can further define it as we proceed. What services we're going to provide, how we're going to review their progress in whatever services we're providing. And then we list the services, whether that's physical therapy, not intensive, but counseling through an outside source, med management, job placement, job coaching, on-the-job training, vocational training. It's easier to tell you what we can't do than to tell you what we can do. I can tell you we can't buy a gun. I'm not going to purchase you a franchise. We can't pay franchise fees. I can't purchase you anything that requires a title of ownership. But pretty much, other than that, we can do it. As long as it's related to them going to work. And so our services are, again, time limited, meaning that we're going to provide you services during that time frame that your son or daughter needs for them to go to work. Whether that's, assisting someone with 4 years of college. Those are things that we have done and we can do. Vocational training. Ultimately leading to them going to work. Say your son or daughter exits high school and just wants help finding a job. And they need support in employment, which is pretty intense. We spend a lot of time with them, and our providers spend a lot of time with them, helping us understand what their specific needs are, and then finding them that job, helping them do the HR paperwork. All of those things associated with getting a job, we have someone there to support them. Then, once they're on the job and they're doing fine, we're going to step away completely. and just contact the manager, see how everything's going. And then ultimately, we're going to close their case successfully. That's how we are judged by the legislator, by the feds, everybody. They look at how many successful closures we get, which is us helping individuals go to work. In our region last year, I think it was about 3,800. Was it 2,800? 38? It was about 3,800 to 4,000 people with significant disabilities entered the workforce last fiscal year. In our office alone in McKinney and Sherman, it's about 280, 300 people. And most of those, we have a large percentage of transition students out of our McKinney and Sherman offices because we have 4 transition counselors. So we work with a lot of high school students. And it's I'm trying to figure out how to put it. There's no waiting list for us. As Tracy mentioned in the video, we're not an HCS waiver program. We're not Texas Home Living. We're not CLASS. There's no wait list. For a long time, the agency, people will go, well, I need to get on the wait list for you guys. I need to get on the wait list for Voc Rehab or TRC or DARS. We don't have a wait list. Tomorrow morning, if you called Margie say, okay, I'm going to meet with your son or daughter. I'm going to get some information, or I'll get some information from you, set up an appointment, meet with you in the next week or two, couple weeks. There's no wait list. Fortunately, the state of Texas, we are not on order of selection, which is order of selection is a financial kind of restriction in that only the most significant disabilities get served. Every state around us is order of selection. We are not at this point, meaning that we're unrestricted. We can serve all disabilities. And so that's a good thing. There's no, like I said, there's no wait list or anything like that. You contact the counselor. If you don't know who that would be, depending on what school you go to, you could probably talk to your diagnostician or someone in the special ed offices there, and they would be able to tell you who your son or daughter is served by. And then once your son or daughter exits high school, we still continue. Because the services we're providing in high school are to help them prepare while they're out of high school. We do volunteer experiences. We can help them get a job while they're still in high school. We help them get a job when they're out of high school. But ultimately, it all leads to them going to work. So
this is not an 18 and over
Nope.
age? Okay.
Nope. We start at 14. We start serving them at 14. Yep. Now, hold on, let me finish this. If a student at 14 tells me they want to get a job, we got to really look at that. There's some employers that won't hire before 16, but that doesn't mean that there's not services that we can provide before they hit 16 to prepare them for that job. Yes, sir.
So my question is this volunteer that you're doing at 14 to 18 first, or are they getting paid?
They can be paid. They can.
What about the law that says that they ever have $2,000 in their name before 18, they're kicked off all the other Medicaid waiver programs?
Good question. We have what they call subject matter experts. We were trained by Social Security, well, not even Social Security Administration, an attorney. His name is John Coburn. He actually works for our agency. He is a certified expert in work incentive planning, in that if your son or daughter receives SSI or SSDI, before we even think about work, we're going to do what's called a benefit analysis. The counselor that's the subject matter expert for our unit, her name is Stephanie Harrod. She's a counselor in our McKinney office. She's going to sit down individually with you, look at, we do what's called, what's the first thing that we get from Social Security Administration?
The award list?
No. We get a breakdown of what the award is from Social Security Administration. I can't remember, it just escaped me. But then we look at that and we do the work incentive and planning, where we look at how much you can earn per month without losing your benefits, how many hours a week that is, what other programs you may be eligible for that you may or may not know about. There's also what's called Medicaid Exclusion Bill 1619B, which is pretty much a button they click in their system that says you have a medical need for Medicaid. You may not receive any cash benefit, SSI, but you receive all of the benefits of Medicaid. And that I think the threshold for that this year is roughly $36,000 a year that you could earn and still keep all of your Medicaid. So that is one of the major things. We don't want to jeopardize anybody's benefits. That's what we don't want to do. So that whole subject matter expert for Social Security beneficiaries, was started about 4 years ago. And so there's a big push because Social Security is not trying to get people off the rolls, but reduce some of the money that they're having to pay out. Because with SSI, you do, for the first $85 you make, they don't really count. For every dollar you earn after that, for every $2 you earn after that, they take $1 away from your SSI. And so we look at that threshold and see what that's going to be and try to keep you under that. You know, ultimately the choice is the consumers, if they want to exceed that threshold or they don't. But we work within it. When we're looking for employment, those are some of the non-negotiables that we look at. Are you willing to work more than 20 hours? If they say no, we don't even look for a job that's over 20 hours because we know that benefit is a resource that they want to maintain. So does that help?
Sort of.
Well,
But I got it. I just know that what our mom's deal is that we were told by attorneys that if you ever have to get at $2,000 when they're 18 in their day,
that's extremely frustrating because that's absolutely not accurate. It's not. There is so many ways to divert that that will allow your son or daughter to work. Absolutely. There's a pass. There's all kinds of different things. Now, to structure them, it's difficult and it's a time-consuming process. But that is...
it's okay. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just get really frustrated with that. But yeah, yes, ma'am.
You said earlier that you guys focus on, I mean, it's not a long-term support. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like if my son needs a long-term support, then it sounds like he really wouldn't.
It depends.
qualify, maybe.
Are you talking about long-term support on the job or long-term support in life?
On the job.
On the job?
Because you said earlier that you guys really don't do long-term support and your goal is to close it out because you get rewarded. I mean, that's what they look at.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm just looking at if I brought my son here and he needed long-term support, you know, to be employed, what are you saying long-term support? I mean, how many? What's the
Well,
timeframe?
ultimately, our goal is competitive, gainful, independent employment where there's no long-term job coach, where there's no longer someone there right beside them, assisting them in doing the job. Long-term provider life path can come in. They're not going to provide it long-term either. They will provide it for short-term periods of time to help train for a new skill if something's changed. But in terms of for the life of that job, that's not something you're going to be able to provide either.
Thank
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. God, I need to quit. I think. Just a plug, not that you guys weren't going to talk about it, but there is another resource expo on Saturday, Connecting the Dots. It's put on by Region 10. And are you guys a sponsor of that?
No.
You can talk about it?
I'll be there.
Yeah.
We can send a link.
Okay. I'm going to be presenting as well again, just on Saturday. It's a resource for parents and adults of children with disabilities. It's at Region 10, it's the Educational Service Center. I think it's 1800 East Spring Valley Road in Richardson.
Abrams.
It's at the Abrams location. Okay, yeah, it's Saturday from 10 to 2. It's called Connecting the Dots. That's another thing. So, but like I said, anything you can do to get involved in your son or daughter's transition is important. We may not be the agency, but we do have resources and information that even we may not even be serving your son or daughter. But if you have questions, call us. We'll help you because we are one of the agencies that's going to be there after your son or daughter leaves high school. We're not going away. We may not be the agency, but we'll at least give you information and referral and try to answer questions for you. If we don't have the answer, I'll get it. I'll get it.
We've talked a little bit about the education and preparing for when your child no longer has the educational supports because they've moved on, they've graduated, whether it's 18 or 22. We've talked also a bit about the work and trying to get them to the point where we can pull back and they can work independently. I get to talk about the fun thing when they lose the ultimate support, you. We hope for the best and plan for the worst. I get to look at, okay, what's the worst case scenario? Yay! And then how are we going to make sure that your child is in the best position possible? We look at this, the types of families that I work with a lot. For example, a couple of weeks ago, 80-year-old mom with a 40-year-old special needs adult child, realizing that she's not going to be able to take care of him for the rest of his life. So many families come through our door and they say, oh, we're not worried about it. He's going to live with us for the rest of his life. No, he's not. At best, he's going to live with you for the rest of your life. When is the best time to work on that independence and that transition to where he's going to live? When he loses you or before that? And so my job within the company is to make sure that you know what resources are out there, what programs are out there. If they are able to work, making sure that you know where to go. If they're not, what are the day programs that are available? Or if they're not working full time, then what are the other programs that they can be doing to maintain the skill level that they've learned in the educational community in order to be as independent as possible? Here's something that a lot of people don't understand. When you talk about group homes, a lot of people think of the state centers and those horrible stories that you hear in the news and, you know, all the, bad, like horrible things. That's not a group home, okay? That is one option. The Denton State Center that's right up here is actually not as bad as all the others, but it's still not your first choice. Most group homes are actually neighborhood homes. They could be your next door. They look just like any other home in the community. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. I'm going to skip around a lot because I really did not like mentally prepare for this, and I apologize. So if I get confusing, then just, hey, focus, then that'll work. One thing that we need to understand is that HCS homes, or if you don't have HCS, there's also ICF homes. A lot of these homes, they're homes in your community, but they are privately run. They are run by companies that it is not a first come, first serve. It is a best fit. They have to provide the supports and services for your child, but if you are not the best fit for the opening they have, then you may not be getting that next spot. So what you need to understand is, let's say we've got two kids, okay? They're both 30. They've been out of school since they were 22, so they've been 7 years, or do my math, you can tell I taught preschool, 8 years on their own. One child sat at home on their iPad watching TV all day. The other child has been working part-time or volunteering part-time or part of a structured day program where they had structured activities that looked very much like the educational service that you get here. Which child do you think is going to have the skill set that is going to make them the best fit for that group home? The one that stayed home or the one that was active? The one that was active. So keeping and maintaining those skills, thinking ahead to that day when you're not going to be able to provide those supports. DJ talked about this. What are the things that you do for your child? Now stop it. How's your child going to survive? What supports are you going to need to put in place to make sure that they've got that skill set, that they fit into the home that is the best fit for them, that you've chosen, not that they fell into because it was the only option left. Okay? There are a lot of day programs out there. These are not babysitting services. However, some of them more are than aren't. Go visit them. Go find out what's out there. The resource fair that we talked about this weekend, there are going to be day programs. Go talk to them. What do you do all day? How many of you are familiar with Heroes Camp? You know they have a day program now? They just started in January. They now have a day program. If you don't know about Heroes Camp, look it up. It's an awesome thing. I think March 1st is when they have their first opening. Camp is a great way to help maintain that skill set over the summer. Same thing when they've graduated. Get them in camp. This helps them develop those independent skills, being away from you. Admittedly, my child is 16. For the first time, I signed him up for Camp Summit. How many of you know what Camp Summit is? It's an overnight camp for children with special needs. I cried a little when I got in, okay? But it's gonna be okay. So spring break, he will spend his first night away from me. Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. It's gonna be okay. He needs to learn to do that. But just as importantly, I need to learn to do that. Because someday I am going to have to let go. And better that I do it sooner so he's able to develop those independent skills.
We talked a little bit about guardianship. Who's going to make the decisions that you make right now when you're gone? Even better is, who are you going to train to make those decisions rather than just dropping it on somebody's doorstep and saying, hey, good luck. That's actually what I did, okay? What we do in our company, we help develop a care plan. And that is basically, I have a giant, it's called the Big Ugly Green Book, and it is a user manual for my child. And when I got it completed, granted, I started this and it took me like 5 years to finally getting around to having it completely done. I called my sister and I said, hey, guess what? I need you to come down for the weekend. She said, okay. So she shows up on Friday. I gave her the big green book and I said, see ya. When I got back, I had 3 pages of notes of things that I should have included in that green book that I did not, that she had questions on. That's a care plan. If something happens to me, I know that my child is taken care of. I know that his routines are written down. I know that somebody can take care of him. My ideal is, assuming that all goes well, is that when my daughter turns 30, she will assume guardianship so that I can walk her through that process before I die. And she's not left going, oh my gosh, what do I do? And he's not left going, where's mom? Making sure that those plans are in place. And again, I apologize. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but there is so much to the whole care plan and thinking ahead. And that little voice in the back of your head that says, what if? Listen to it. You've got to think ahead. What if my husband is out of town and I'm in a car accident and I'm in the hospital for a couple of days, a week, a month? What plan do I have in place? Who's on my emergency call list? Who knows my schedule? Let me tell you a fun story. And I know I'm going to make sure that we get out on time, but fun story. Babysat a kid so that the parents could just get out of the house long enough to sign the will. Okay? So what we were told was he's had a little trouble finishing his dinner. So what we've done is he gets chocolate ice cream when he finishes his dinner, and he knows us. Okay. So all night, getting through the night, everything's going great. It's time for dinner. Comes, sits down, eats SpaghettiOs or whatever it was, puts the fork down, says, chocolate. So it was my boss that was actually babysitting. He goes to the freezer. He pulls out the chocolate ice cream. He scoops it out. He puts it in a bowl, sets it in front of him. Kid looks at it and goes, chocolate. So go to the cabinet, get the chocolate syrup, put chocolate syrup on it. Chocolate. Try sprinkles, without sprinkles, everything, cereal, put it in a bowl, put it in a cup, put it in this cup and that cup, and trying everything. Finally, at the end, it's like, okay, we're just going to sit here and watch the ice cream melt because I have no clue what to do. Parents get home, tell them what happened. Dad just starts laughing. Goes over to the freezer, pulls out the Neapolitan ice cream. Y'all know what the Neapolitan ice cream is. Goes to the chocolate side, scoops out a scoop of chocolate ice cream from the Neapolitan, puts it in the bowl. Kid happily eats it up, goes and gets ready for bed. Those little things, was it wrong that the kid ate chocolate ice cream after dinner? No. Were the instructions specific enough to follow his routine and help him maintain what he was used to and help him feel comfortable and finish out his day? No, it was not. Those little things, those little codes that we have as parents that we know, when my kid comes up to you and does this, you're going to go, you get a headache? I'm going to say, no, you need to sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Who's going to know that that's what this means unless they have an instruction manual? When he sits there and does this, he wants you to change his video. And he will continue to get closer and closer and closer and closer. And he will get nose to nose with you doing this. Like, can you not understand what I'm saying? No, I don't, because your mom didn't tell me. Those little things have to be in a care plan. You've got to have a user manual for your kiddo. Even if they are verbal, there are little things that they do that you know. You know, y'all ever have one of those meltdowns in the store and you're like, oh shoot, I can see this coming. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. How did you know? And how would somebody else know if they were alone with your child? You can't assume that everybody understands your kid. I had something that just clicked with me that I was like, oh, I've got to make sure and mention this. Totally forgot it. So anyway, That's the fun part. But the nice thing is, even though it's not really fun to think about, like, okay, what happens when I die? Yay, what a fun concept. But the fact is there are supports in place, and if you have that plan in place, I cannot tell you how many parents are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. My kid's a sophomore, he's a junior, he's a senior, he's about to graduate. I don't know what he's going to do, and I'm like, I'm not really concerned because I have a plan, because I've put something in place that I know will support him if I'm not there. Avoiding the plan is not going to help. Great little piece of imagery. Ostrich standing on the railroad track, sticks his head in the sand because he's scared. Train's still going to hit him. The fact is, the one thing, enjoy life because no one gets out alive. There is no way you can avoid that. Something is going to happen to you at some point. What's going to happen to your child when that happens? Making sure that you know, where are they going to work? What are they going to be doing? Are they going to be able to do the substantial gainful employment? Are they going to be able to do that for the rest of their lives? Yes, they did great. They made straight A's. They went to college. Yay, but they can't balance a checkbook. Okay, so let's make sure that those supports are in place. Are you aware of the group homes that are out there that provide full 24-hour support versus the ones that just provide them kind of a little bit of support, making sure, hey, did you take your medicine tonight? Hey, don't forget you got to work at the 7:30 shift tomorrow. There's a great facility that's being built down in Waxahachie. There's another one being built up in Denton. Do you know about these? If you don't, go to the resource fairs. There's tons of them. This one on Saturday will be a good start. Get those names, keep those cards, call those people, go visit. Even better is if you have time, go volunteer. A lot of those day programs use volunteer services. What better way to know how something really works than from the inside? Because I guarantee working there is not what you'll see on the tour. Get in, see how it works, see if that fits for your kiddo. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. I do have cards if you want. My job is I don't do financial planning. Don't even ask me anything about financial planning. Numbers make my eyes glaze over. Ew. I go out, I go find out what the resources are and how they may help various families. If I can't find the answer, my job is if I don't have the answer, my job is to go find the answer. Okay? So, short and sweet. I hope that helps. Please try to get to sleep tonight. I know, it's not fun stuff to think about, and if you have any questions, give us a call. Remember, your parent trainers are always here to help you.